Hello, good evening, and welcome to this CPD webinar on Wednesday, the 13th of September at 8 o'clock. My name is Andrew Ormerod, and I will be facilitating this evening's webinar, and I'll introduce you to the rest of the team very shortly. So just a few bits and bats to go through. Webinar rules and facts. The presenter and myself cannot see or hear you until the presentation's done, so you don't have to be sat there in your smart shirts and your posh frocks while the presentation is occurring, because we can't see your camera, despite what some people think, and we also can't hear you unless we unlock your microphone. To that, the presenter will answer any questions that you have at the end of the presentation. So what you have got the option to do is either type a question in the question box. So on your right hand side, if you're on a computer, you should have an option where it says questions. You can type your question in there and we'll be able to answer that for you. Or indeed, what you can do is you can pop your hand up. So you can have a little practice now if you like. On your screen you should have the option to pop up your hand, and then what we will do is we will unlock your microphone and we will allow you to speak to Becci live. So Dominic will be managing that. Are you there, Dominic?
I am, yes.
So Dominic will be lining it up. So if you are able to ask a question and you want to speak to Becci live, Dominic will be speaking to you at the end of the presentation and arranging you to speak live and ask questions. Thanks, Dominic. Great to have you on board again this evening. Certificates and video links, these will drop automatically into your CPD.me profile. So if you are a member of CPD.me, a copy of the video of tonight's presentation and a certificate will drop directly into your CPD profile for you to reflect upon within about 24 hours. For the other people who are not members, you'll get the option to join or have a trial membership at the end of this presentation, and again we will drop the certificate directly into your portfolio for you, which makes it really easy to manage your CPD. So everyone will be able to access a recorded copy of the webinar, and then you can use that for future use, share it with colleagues, or you can pass it on to friends at work. So what is CPD.me? CPD.me is a very simple method of you maintaining an accurate record of your learning and development. I'm very excited to announce that our new app will be launching at the end of this month, and it is absolutely amazing, as well as a new dashboard, and so look out for those. And I'll tell you a bit about later on in the presentation. We have got a social media chat going on tonight along with the webinar, and so my good friend Sarah Harris, are you there, Sarah?
I am, Andrew, and good evening, everybody.
Perfect, thanks very much, Sarah. Sarah will be managing our social media tonight, so if you are on Twitter, you can follow us at CPD.me, and if you use hashtag CPD.me, we'll be capturing some of the screenshots and some of the quotations from Becci's webinar. All that leaves me to do is hand over the presentation to Becci. So are you there, Becci? Can you hear me?
Hopefully everybody can see my screen. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to participate in this week's webinar, and I am here to talk about all things coaching and to share some tips and hints around how we can lead using a coaching style. The reason this has come about is because I spend quite a lot of my time working in a health and social care sector, working with people who are wanting to get the best out of others, working in teams where we need to act fast, where we are in emergency situations, and sometimes it's just really easy to tell people what to do. So I'm going to share with you some tips on how we can actually develop people and engage people in the workforce and in the work that they do, so that they come to work and they're happy and healthy as a result of it. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about who I am, why on earth I'm sitting here in front of my computer in my dining room in sunny Bolton, and why I am sharing the tips and hints that I have tonight for you. So when I was putting this together, I decided I needed to share a little bit about who on earth I was, and why it was important that I kind of talk you through a little bit about my background. So I'm going to start fairly early on in that, and the golden thread that comes through everything that I do and the way that I deliver and the way that I lead as well connects heavily back to originally when I was at school. I really wanted to be a teacher, and I really wanted to develop others. I had this grand plan in my head that I was going to be a Spanish teacher, and that's just what I was going to do. But unfortunately, some very challenging life events happened, and and those of you that know me will recognise that I'm far happier to talk in a strengths-based approach rather than a deficit-based approach. So I tend to try and see the silver linings, and this is a silver lining. But actually, those challenging life events created another opportunity for me. I knew that I wanted to go to university. I knew that I wanted to step up and build a career for myself, and the opportunity arose for me to become a student nurse. The driving force behind that was I wanted to be a graduate. There was nursing within my family, although my mum had been very clear in saying, please don't ever be a nurse. So the one thing that I could do to really annoy my mum was to go and be a nurse. So that's what I did. But whilst doing my nurse training, and some people who are clinicians in the audience tonight will know that you have some good learning experiences and some not so good learning experiences. And I certainly gained a lot of experience from both great mentors and some not so great mentors as well, which leads me into my first proper job when I graduated as a nurse. So I trained as a mental health nurse, and in my first role, we were working in quite a specialist mental health unit, which was a secure environment with a number of fantastic services that were all delivered on site, which meant that we were quite attractive to lots of different learners from different backgrounds across health and social care and medicine. So we had frequent learners in our service. What that meant was we did have a high number of people who were hoping and expecting to get something from coming on placement with us, but sometimes all they ended up doing was holding doors or running errands, not really getting involved in the real clinical care, because some mentors just didn't know what to do with all those learners. So fairly early on in my career, I got really interested in the learning environment, particularly in clinical settings, and how we could help students and other healthcare and social care learners to get a better experience, get a better deal when they came into a clinical placement. And the thing that I got really early on was that if you've got a great learning environment, then it inevitably will equate to a great care environment, and the two go hand in hand for me. And participants who are listening tonight will recognise that those services that invest in developing their team, have a great learning culture, are usually the services that have really, really high quality care and are really well regarded, really well respected across the system. What that role led me to was, because I got so interested, I got a bit sick of listening to my colleagues say, oh, I don't think these learners are any good, or I don't think the university keeps sending us not very great student nurses and so on. So I said, well, we're going to have to get involved. So I joined the team with the universities and started to share my experience in terms of recruiting the right learners into practice, which led me into looking at learning environments on a much more strategic level across the region. And I always used to think that my career was just a series of stumbling along and spotting stuff that I liked and applying for it. And actually, the thread going through all this from wanting to be a teacher has always been around learning. And another challenging life event took place that led me to apply for the life-changing role for me, which was heading up the Northwest Mentoring Scheme, which is still, that was 10 years ago, and it's still in existence today. And that role offered me the opportunity to look at coaching and mentoring, really understand the word coaching, what it meant. I've been doing it for years. I've been looking at helping learners in practice. I've been giving guidance. I've been trying to help people to come up with solutions for themselves, but there was a word for it. And there it was right in front of me. So this dream job took place, which transformed, and has since then has transformed my career. Led me into taking some time away from the NHS into a private sector role with the cooperative banking group, where I got to play, and I got to play with this thing called coaching, and really take the opportunity to invest in building my knowledge, but also helping others to understand what coaching meant and how coaching can really bring out the best in people. And because of that, for about a year, I then got dead brave and decided I was going to do this in my own business. I was going to work for myself and I was going to start delivering this thing called coaching and helping leaders and helping people be better bosses. But I was going to do it through my own business, which is Boo. And Boo is an organisation that's heavily focused on creating social impact, on improving the experience in the workplace, on helping bosses to be better bosses, leadership techniques, and ultimately through the use of coaching. I'm giddy when I get to talk about coaching. I'm excitable when I get to work with organisations to design coaching strategies, and it's absolutely where I spend the bulk of my time. There are a team of staff at Boo, but who are all involved in delivering at various levels, and we tend to work mainly in the health and social care with some steps into the private sector of the last 12 months or so. So that's a kind of whistle-stop tour. The thing that sits through all of this is the fact that I'm heavily values-driven, and my business is heavily values-driven. So as a leader, as a boss, as as a staff nurse in charge of the unit, 17, 18 years ago, what drove me then drives me now, and that is about delivering what's right for patients, working ethically, making sure that you create the right ripples. So developing leaders to be the best leaders they can be, so that they can create lovely ripples across not only their teams and their organisations, but also the communities in which they live and the communities in which they serve. So it's absolutely connected to my heart and to what I love doing the most. So what on earth is it? So some of you will know, some of you have logged in tonight to get some top tips and hints, and I'll be interested to find out, in our conversation at the end of the session, what people want to get, what further learning people want from this. But in a nutshell, I use this quote, and there's a couple of reasons why I use this quote. One, because whenever I start to talk about coaching or mentoring, or coaching and mentoring, there's lots of blurred lines, there's lots of overlaps and similarities, and this quote by Connor and Pecora is one that just makes it easier, because it talks about both coaching and mentoring in the same sentence, both clearly learning relationships, helping people to develop and reach potential, achieve stuff that's important to them as well. And it always just makes perfect sense to me. It's not too fancy, it's not too academic, and also the latest edition of this book has a case study that's been written by me and one of my colleagues from another NHS trust, so that always makes me very happy as well. The thing that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we mean by coaching, what we mean by mentoring, but what that means for managers, because this session is all about leading with a coaching style. This session, at the end of it, you're not going to be a coach unless you've already trained as one. This isn't about helping you to become a coach. This is about sharing some hints on how you can lead others, and you can manage your service, or you can work with patients using a coaching style. So that's hopefully the aim of the session for you today. So what that means, then, I always put this in front of people, and this image really helps. If you were all standing in front of me now, I would get you up, and I would invite you to stand at different ends of this spectrum. And this is a continuum that I like to use just to really help people to understand that if you're managing people, if you're leading people, and I will ask the question in a little while about whether you consider yourself a leader, that you have to work with whatever situation and context you're in. So if you look at this now, there'll be people who you work with, or that you've worked with in the past, that require you to be at different points on this arrow. So at the bottom end of the arrow, we have the directive style. So this is where we, classic tell people what to do. And we'll have friends, we'll have relatives, we'll have colleagues who frequently you'll ask for a piece of advice. You might just want to sound out some ideas, think out loud, not really seeking opinion or advice, but you'll probably have somebody tell you what to do, tell you how to fix it. It comes from a kind place, but how often do we actually do exactly what we're told? And I'll share with you some examples in a minute. The opposite end of the continuum is the pull, which is completely non-directive. This is where you're helping someone to solve their own problems. And this is where you use your coaching style and the core skills of coaches that I will talk through in a little while. What you'll find if you look at this continuum is that you'll move up and down this at different points during the day, maybe in a team meeting, maybe in a conversation with the same person. There'll be times when people come to you and say, have you got just a minute? And they will seek your guidance or want you to fix a scenario for you, fix a problem for you. This has a number of problems associated with it. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, to absolutely dive in there and to solve someone's problem for them. And situations where that might be helpful are risk related, or in an emergency, or when there's very clearly only one response to a particular issue or an incident. So it works perfectly if you are leading someone who comes to you with a problem that's high risk, that needs to be solved immediately. Then the right thing to do is usually to tell them what to do or to do it. I always use the example of my 7-year-old daughter Lily, I've squirreled her away and she's upstairs out of the way and she won't be interrupting. But I always use her example, which is she's learning to tie her shoelaces. And if we've got plenty of time, then, and she says, Mummy, I've got to tie my shoelaces before we head off to go to school in the morning, then maybe I'll sit down and I'll say, right, well, show me how you've done it last time. Remember what we talked about. You show me. What might you do next? How might that work? And I'll ask quite open questions. I won't be telling her exactly what to do. I'll see and I'll coach and I'll coax that information out of her. Most of the time, that's not the case. It's not this idyllic domestic perfection. So actually, what happens is she'll say at 10 to 9 in the morning, Mummy, I need to tie my shoelaces, and I'll go straight to the tell. So I'll say either, will you do it like this, or give it to me and I'll do it for you. Excuse me. So that's okay, but if all I ever do is keep doing and fastening, then Lily will become a teenager with Velcro shoes. So she won't learn to tie her own shoelaces. No, I'm not saying for 1 minute that you're dialing in tonight to learn how to, because you're helping people to tie shoelaces and you want to stop helping people tie shoelaces. But actually, the example's really simple. When people bring you a problem and you fix it for them straight away, you cut out any opportunity to allow creativity or creative thinking or solution-focused thinking to even take place. You've stripped that opportunity away from them right at the very beginning. And most of that comes from a kind and helpful place. That comes from the fact that the majority of people I stand in front of and share this screen with are from helping professions who spent all their careers doing things for others, really helping people to get well, to feel better, to fix problems, who've got really tricky situations, real tough life situations in front of them. So it comes from a place of wanting to help. But if all we ever do is help, we're not helping people to reach their potential. So equally, but this is, like I said at the beginning, this is contextual and this is situational. So there'll be times when telling is the right thing to do, and there'll be times when asking is the right thing to do. If you are leading someone who is new to the team, who doesn't know the rules, who doesn't know where to hang their coat, who doesn't know, they've not gone through their induction, then the best place to be is in a very directive place. The best place to be is to instruct and to tell and to give advice and to identify where to go and where to put your coat, where to make your cup of tea, those kind of things. The worst place you can be is in a very non-directive place. If you're really, well, how do you feel where do you think you're going to put your coats? Who do you think you should get to know first? It's going to extend and prolong the induction period. So it's really important that as a leader, as somebody who is, helping others to be at their best in the workplace, the tricky job of a leader is to spot what your colleagues need and match what your colleagues need. So this is about diagnosing who needs what and when. Now, humans are really complex and challenging things to be involved in. So when you're leading a team of humans and lots of people need lots of different things, then the job of a leader is even trickier, because you need to, some of your team will need to be told and given instructions, and some of your team will need to be able to be asked and to be left to get on. So they're all at different points on the development scale, they're all at different points on this arrow. Your job is to diagnose and to spot that. The problem comes when you make assumptions about that. So it's always better to ask people what they need, to get to know them. That comes from building rapport, understanding what drives and motivates, finding out more about people's values and why they come to work to do the job that they do. When you know all that stuff, being able to spot and diagnose what style of leadership you need is a lot easier, because you've got that rapport and you can have some intuition on that. When you don't know a person and you go straight to a tell place, it might not be the right thing, and it might jar, and it may cause problems in building or in the future. So it's a really tricky context. So if you were in front of me now, we'd be wandering around a room. One end would be directive, at the other end would be non-directive, and I'd be asking you where you saw yourself on that continuum. But because I can't do that, I'm going to invite one of the questions to be opened up. So I'd love to know, if people listening in tonight, who considers themselves a leader, just to get a bit of a straw poll. So if you could open up that first poll, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so on the screens now, ladies and gentlemen, should have a poll, and we simply just need you to click yes or no. Do you consider yourself a leader? Okay, 37 people have voted, 49% of people have voted. Oh, they're getting the hang of this now, Becky.
I feel like I'm on a game show. It's brilliant.
It is far better than a game show. Far better.
Yeah.
We have got 70% of people voted. Literally click the screen, guys and girls, yes or no. We'll get up to 80%. Come on. Last few seconds. Okay, we've dried up. I'm going to close the poll.
Wonderful.
And I shall show you the results. Can you see the results there, Becky?
I can't. Let me have a look.
Oh.
I can now, yes.
Do you consider yourself to be a leader? Interesting.
Fantastic. So I'm going to put my screen back up now. Thank you for that. It's heartening to hear and to see that response, because a lot of the time when I stand in front of rooms full of people who are coming to learn about how to use a coaching style, and not necessarily just with their teams, but equally with patients, with people that they don't have any leadership or authority over, the bulk of those people in the room don't class themselves as leaders. So it's really heartening, because actually you can have leadership qualities and not be in charge of people. Great leadership is about challenge and authenticity and working within your values and connecting your values to the work that you do. So that is interesting, and I wonder whether I get any questions on that at the end of the session. So in terms of this continuum, if you match people where they need to be at the right time, so a story for you is that when I joined one of the organisations I went to work for, I started the organisation knowing a bit about the job I was going to do, but not knowing anything about the organisation. So my boss matched me and met me at the bottom of this arrow, really spotted that actually what I needed to do was I needed to know where everything is. I needed to know how to go about and navigate those first few weeks in a new role. So my boss started with very clear instructions, handing over information, checking through a checklist and so on, and over the course of a few weeks actually nurtured and supported and started to coach. So after a period of about 3 or 4 weeks, I was firmly part of the team, delivering at the level that I needed to. I'd really hit the ground running, and it was a testament to my boss spotting what I needed and the style of leadership that I needed, and following me up, I suppose, following up the arrow to the point where I was competent, I was confident, and I was able to get on and deliver. And when I needed support, she would offer that in a coaching style, unless there was an emergency situation or a piece of information that had to be done in a certain way. She mainly matched me in my style. Had she have kind of greeted me on that first day with a really open, non-directive style, then I would have been spinning around for months, because actually I did need to know where to go. I needed to know who to work with. I needed to know how the HR director wanted their presentations. I needed to know where to get a cup of tea. And if she'd have took a coaching approach, saying things like, well, where do you think, or what do you think, or how might you find this information out, it might have caused a bit of tension. It could have jarred it could have got in the way of my induction process. So the message here is all around, it's really tough when you're leading somebody. Your job as a leader is to really spot what people need and match it and seek opportunities to develop. But if all you ever do is fix and tell and help, which all comes from a kind place, then you're going to be the one who's last to leave at night. You're going to be the one who's carrying all the massive workload, who's taking stuff home in the evenings, and who is frequently interrupted and handed over pieces of work or tasks from other people. So it's worth considering, and I'd love to know whether people have got personal experience of that when we get to the end of the presentation. Some top tips on when and when not to. Brilliant opportunities to coach are when somebody asks you how to do something. So Lily asked me how to tie shoelaces, and we've got plenty of time and there's no risk, then perfect, it's the right thing to do, offer some coaching. If people ask for your advice, or people say they can't do something, and you've got freedom and space in which to say, would it be okay if ask you a few questions, try to help you rather than just fix it for you. You know, be honest, don't just try and do this stealthily. Be very clear and say, you know, this is a style that I'm working on, this is a way that I know gets the best out of people. Lots and lots of research out there that says that coaching is a helpful and healthy style of leadership. Or if you see something that could be done more efficiently, well, the part of my brain wants to, if I see something that I think, oh, I could have done that better, it's very tempting just to do it yourself. But actually, going through the pain barrier, handing it over to somebody else, watching how they do it, and helping them to do things more efficiently, although it takes longer time at the beginning, actually will free you up massively further down the line. So people will stop asking for help on particular tasks because you've coached them through the delivery of those. When not to coach, fairly obvious. Well, for me it is. So emergency situations. So if there is a tricky, you know, a cardiac arrest, then your job is to act and to deal with. If there is a, you know, if the alarm goes off, the fire alarm goes off, then you tell people what to do. Don't. The problems come if all you ever do is coach or all you ever do is tell. If all you ever do is tell, your reputation becomes somebody that just tells all the time, that fixes stuff, but doesn't really develop or enable or engage. But if all you do is ask and coach, then your reputation is also challenged there as well, because you'll be known as somebody that doesn't get things done in an emergency or doesn't take responsibility. So it's a really fine balance in knowing when to and when not to. And great leaders are able to spot more often than not which place they need to be, whether they need to be in ask or whether they need to be in tell. Other areas, if somebody's flat out very clearly saying, I do not want to be coached, I do not want you to ask me questions, I need you to tell me what to do, then actually tell them give them the solution, but work with them in a coaching style as part of their development longer term. And in particularly one-to-ones, appraisal opportunities, fantastic chance, because you've got a bit of breathing space to have a great coaching conversation. Please, whatever you do, don't bounce from one appraisal to the next with no time in between. And when you have those appraisals, just shut down your computers, turn away from your screen, and just have a good conversation about how somebody's doing, rather than ticking off a checklist and working through a tick box list. No rapport is built and no development takes place. So that's where I am now. In terms of, I've got another poll for people before I go into the core skills. I'm interested to find out if anyone has experience of being coached. I think that's the poll question. Can I just double check that with you, Andrew?
Of course you can, yeah. So the question is, does anyone have any experience of coaching other people? And I've popped that on your screen now. So again, simply click yes or no. Oh, they're clicking super fast now, Becky.
Brilliant. They're in. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Easy peasy. 60% of people voted. Come on, guys and girls, yes or no? 61%. I reckon people have run off quickly to the fridge for a glass of lemonade.
Very specific.
I nearly sang the theme tune then to the song. But 70% of people voted. Okay, I'm going to stop the call there, and the results are as follows.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so 71% have had experience of coaching others, and 29% have no experience of coaching others. Okay, fantastic. So that's interesting to see the differences between leaders and coaches. And I do an exercise for our customers. We do it a lot with leadership programs, which is where we ask people to define the qualities. Think about a best boss. It's very easy to think about the worst boss, or think about a boss that's given you a load of tough work over the years, or hasn't been the greatest. But actually, it's harder to sometimes come up with best boss. And we do a best boss exercise, and we always ask people to come up with the qualities, describe how that person made them feel, look at the types of behaviours that were consistent with that best boss. And time after time after time, we hear the words, they coached me, they didn't just tell me what to do, they were a sounding board for me, they were there when it mattered, or they took the hit when it mattered, they stepped up and helped me out in the situation that I found myself in that I was really struggling with. But they also held me to account, and they challenged me, and they stretched and developed me as well. So core skills that come out time and time again. Now, what I've put in front of you is these pretty petals that seem very similar. But the reason I've done this is because people say, well, what's the difference? And I'm a mentor. I mentor for clinical practice. I need to make sure that people are fit to practice in order for them to, join the nursing register or join the HCPC and so on. And what I wanted to reassure people were is if you don't have to be a fancy accredited coach to use these skills. The likelihood is you're using these in whatever jobs you do anyway. And call yourself a mentor or a coach, but using these skills will help you be a better boss, will help you lead, and help people be better in their roles. So people that use these skills, leaders that use great rapport building, are able to give really helpful, constructive feedback, sometimes very challenging, who ask more than they tell, who hold people to account, are likely to have more people remain in the workplace. So sickness absence will be lower if you've got a great boss, if they're leading with a coaching style. You will have better retention. Talent will be developed. And great bosses can spot and nurture talent. Some of you will have experienced that over time. The beauty of having bosses and leaders that have a coaching style means that it creates a coaching culture. And what is the ultimate aim, I would suggest, as a business owner and as a organizational consultant, is that you want to create a coaching culture. Those organisations that have that culture of coaching, that go-to leadership style of coaching when it's necessary and when it's needed, but can flip back and forward to a tell place if absolutely necessary, are organisations that are more successful. So the research out there suggests that performance is increased by around 5 times when you're coached, when you're led using a coaching style. Organisations that have coaching cultures have like I said, higher retention, they are a better customer experience. So somebody who's led by somebody using a coaching style will provide better customer service. So think about the places that you go out for dinner, your favourite restaurant, your favourite hotel, the travel company that you use. So you can tell I've just got back from holiday. All of my examples are travel related. Think about the shop that you shop in or the supermarket that you choose to go in. Most of the time, we make choices as customers based on our experience in those stores as a customer. And the likelihood is that if you're getting a cracking customer experience, it's likely to be because their manager's really good, that their manager is using a coaching style, whether that's in an emergency services organisation, whether that's on a ward at the hospital, or whether that's in a supermarket. The leadership skills and great leadership kind of leaks across the service, which helps people to stay in their role. The core skills aren't, anything fancy. They're not, really challenging to learn. And everybody who's on this webinar tonight has all these core skills. But I would say the difference between mentoring and coaching is that as a mentor, you are more of a subject matter expert. You're there to guide. You're maybe nudging people towards. You have expertise and you're imparting that expertise. So, for example, I mentor people who are considering setting up their own businesses, or who are looking at a healthcare leadership role, because both of those things that I have got experience and I can share some information and guidance. Whereas if I'm coaching, I don't need to have any experience or personal knowledge or experience of the issue that the person I'm coaching is bringing to the discussion. I need to use good listening skills and great questioning skills and build that great rapport. So I don't need to have any prior knowledge or subject matter expertise with the people that I'm coaching, because I'm not there to give them the answers. I'm there to help them figure out the answers for themselves. So I'm hoping that that makes sense, but I'm prepared to answer your questions at the end of the session. A couple of slides just to share with you. Being a good leader takes some listening. So when we are really truly listening and listening with that strong level of empathy, people trust us, they build rapport quicker, and we spot what's also not being said as much as what is being said. We may have all had those experiences where we've had an appraisal where our boss didn't even look away from the screen, or we're making notes and not making much eye contact, typing away, or you maybe have friends, relatives, or I'm sure we're all guilty of it at some point, that in the middle of a conversation somebody's looking at some kind of tablet device or their phone. And when we see that happening, we tend to not share as much information. So we tend to just shut down, or we think, well, that's just plain rude, and we stop offering whatever our story is, whatever our requests are. So it's really important that as leaders, you are pressed for time, but if you have time to really turn away from your screen, to really pay attention to your colleagues, then fantastic, do that. But if you haven't, that's totally okay, because you're very busy. So the best thing you can do is say, I can't right now. Could we talk about this when we have got a bit more breathing space, because I'm really interested and I really want to hear more about and help you to figure something out. So really importantly, to as best as you can, head towards the number 4 or number 5 listening space that's on the screen in front of you right now. I won't go into the others, but I'll be happy to share slides and further information around how you can practice and prep your listening style so that you can be present for others. But people genuinely share more and are far more eager to deliver brilliant services when you listen to them, and it's very infrequent that we get properly listened to. So when we are, and when our colleagues are, that's really nice. It's a really good feeling. So we want to do more of it. And if great leaders are listening more and listening with a little bit more empathy, spotting and intuitively listening, then you're likely to improve performance, or at least offer the opportunity for somebody to share what's really going on for them. What gets in the way of people's performance tends to be how they're feeling, and if they're not being heard, they're not likely to tell you what's going on. Therefore, you might make assumptions about them just being poor performers. So it's really important that you build your conversation style, you get to know your team, you get to know the people that you're spending a lot of time with, because that, although there's an investment at the beginning of your conversation, or the beginning of the shift, or the beginning of the induction process, actually that pays off long term, because you have built better rapport. Therefore, the trust is there to lead more effectively. I do hope this is all making sense for you. This is a tip, and I suppose this heads towards wrapping up to the end of this. I worked with the Keddy, who is the reference on this, is one called Jackie Keddy, and Jackie Keddy works for a police force. And about 10 years ago, I got to know Jackie, and she was working in a very busy police force in a HR, kind of helping people to be better leaders in a very command and control organisation. And some participants here tonight will recognise what it feels like to work in a command and control organisation. And very heavily, she experienced a lot of problems, so a lot of HR related, a lot of grievances, a lot of sickness absence, because bosses were in total command and control space. So leaders, despite not being on scene or in an emergency situation, were carrying through this desire to lead from a command and control perspective. So she developed what we call jam cards, and this just caught my attention because we all work with people, and we've all done it ourselves, where we say to our the person who's responsible or the leader or our boss, we say, have you got just a minute? And time again, we as leaders will go, yeah, of course we have, even though we might not have, or even though our table is full, our desk is piled high with projects and pieces of work, or our brain is full of all the tasks and stuff we've got to do. Despite all that, when somebody says you've got just a minute, even if you haven't, we tend to be real polite and say, yeah, okay, of course I have, give it to me, I'll fix it, just hand it over, and because it's probably quicker if you give it to me. I'm probably going to get it right. So there's a lot of control, there's a lot of nervousness around relinquishing some of our power sometimes and handing over work to other people, because trusting them to do as good a job as you think you're doing is something that we get stuck in time and time again. So Jackie came up with this just a minute, the jam technique, and I love this because it's dead quick. So you can coach somebody on the way to the car park, you can coach someone in the corridor. So when somebody says, have you got just a minute, instead of saying, yeah, give it to me, actually asking some really open questions. So, who else could you approach with this? What's worked well before? What do you really think? What would be, if you waved a magic wand and you'd fix this problem, what would you have done? What would your colleagues' advice be on this? So asking people, instead of just going straight to fix, opening up the conversation, inviting them to just think a little bit about how they might consider doing this task or fixing this problem themselves. And probably about 80% of the time that will work. You'll find that over time, as you use this, and I always recommend using this with those people that are really open to this, those people that will get it, because that builds confidence in you as a leader. That encourages you to do it again. And what will happen is that those people that you try this technique with, and remembering to try it when it's not a risk, when there's breathing space to do it, when there's no emergency, actually just giving it a try means that the next time they face this issue or this problem, instead of coming to you as they've always done in the past, they'll actually know, or they'll actually coach somebody else. So really powerful and very quick wins. So I've had lots of participants come through our Manager as Coach program or our Leadership Coaching Skills programs who say, gosh, I just took a call at lunchtime, and usually I'd be, I'm on call, and I don't stop, I don't get lunch because I'm writing a list. As soon as I answer the phone, what's up? Tell me the issue, and they're fixing it straight away. But actually, I've had several people who've come through the program and say, gosh, I took a call and I tried just a minute technique, and I've not been left with all the work. I can come back and I can spend the afternoon learning, because I'm not going to have to go and fix something, because I think I'll do a better job from there. I've actually trusted them and left them to do it. So this isn't about abandoning people or sending people away and saying, I'm too busy, I'm too important, or none of that stuff. This is all about saying, actually, I know you can do this, and I trust you to do this. So what can we do? How can you do this differently? Or what would you do if I wasn't here, for example? It's really powerful, very quick messages. And I would always say, try this with the people who are receptive, who are the ones that you're going to get great results from, because the more you do it, builds a brilliant feedback loop, gives you plenty of opportunity to grow your confidence, practice your skills, and then build up your energy and your reserves for the less helpful people that you may experience in your teams and in your organisations, who maybe you need to be at your most resilient and shiny best for you to really coach those individuals. But start with working with people who are really up for this, because actually you'll get quick results and it creates ripples across teams and services. I think I'm coming to the end of my talking bit, which has been very strange, sitting in my dining room talking at my screen. My final point is just that it's really important as a leader, and I know Dan talked about this in the clinical leadership webinar last week, which is it's all about authenticity. It's not what you are. So you know, it doesn't matter how many stripes or what numbers and letters you've got attached to your salary at the, you know, in your role wherever you are. It's actually the way you are, and that's people. People join organisations, but they leave bosses. So there's a real message around being you and being the best version of you as a boss has far more impact and influence on people's well-being and performance in the workplace than no matter what level you are in the organisation. So leadership is at all levels. You can coach above, sideways, wherever in the organisation. And it's my strongest message to you is, if you try asking before you try telling, and you spot when to coach and when not to coach, I think you'll be onto a winner. And that's my session over. I'm interested to hear if there are any questions.
Thank you, Becky. We've got one question just that's written, and then if anybody wants to put their hand up as well to ask any questions live, then that would be great. Just put your hands up in the meantime. But we have a question from Jonathan Kirk, Becky, asking, can you recommend any particular leadership or coaching books or people to follow online, please?
Well, obviously me. So follow Team Boo because we're quite prolific. But books, I mentioned one at the beginning that I really like. It's a recommended text by Connor and Pecora, Coaching and Mentoring in the Workplace. It's really, I don't know how to say this without maybe offending some of my the colleagues that have spent so much time writing these books, but that one for me is dead practical. It gives top tips and hints. It's very focused on case studies. It's just really easy to dip in and out of. So that one for me is one that we recommend when we deliver our qualifications. All the participants get a copy of that. I think Coaching at Work is a magazine, but it's also online, and their Twitter feed is really helpful. And I can share the Twitter handle for that. There are, to be honest, I pick over coaching books. I follow a lot of a lot of my learning comes from social media. So a huge amount of what really attracts me and catches my attention is I can spot stuff, read it really quickly, and forward it on and share it and just get the news out there. So I'm a big follower of the Harvard Business Review because they do short and to the point, practical, helpful tips and hints all around coaching and leading others. And a huge fan of Simon Sinek as well, who wrote the book Start With Why. And a lot of the work that Northwest Ambulance Service and the recent leadership behaviours and values, the Be, Think, Do model, connects back with the starting with why. If you're able as a leader to share your why and connect your values and your passion to why on earth you do what you do day in, day out, then it builds real momentum and fuses the people that you are leading or will be leading in the future. So Simon Sinek, Coaching at Work magazine, Connor and Pecora, and probably a ton of others that I'd be more than happy to share with the CPD-Me team so that they can forward that on to everybody who's been listening.
That's perfect. Thank you, Becky, and I hope that answers your question, Jonathan. We have another question, a written one again. So how would you recommend trying to motivate a non-engaging member of a team? And that's from Gareth.
I bet, Gareth, everybody else who's listening in has also been thinking about that as well, so thank you for asking it. I would say the starting place is the rest of the team. So I would, my approach leading in that situation would be to get it right with everybody else, to really get those quick wins, like I mentioned at the end of the presentation. Get your quick wins in, help other people, so that work is being, so momentum is building. And then you can spend some really good time building rapport with the less engaged colleague, or non-engaging, did you say? I suppose the main focus will be around getting to know them. Then I use a approach around storytelling. So if you are prepared to share a little bit about who you are, then the likelihood is other people will do too. And it's not easy, and sometimes, you know, people don't engage or won't engage for many reasons. But I think a starting point would be spending a bit of time listening and understanding what's coming, why someone is less engaged than maybe the rest of the team, finding out what drives them, looking at what their values are. Because if they're in your team and you're all part of the same service, the likelihood is you've all joined that service because you've all got a desire to deliver that service, whatever that service, whether it's selling washing machines or saving lives. You've all decided that you want to provide that service, or you want to, you know, give great customer service. So I would say start with why, share your why, find out their values, and shape your messages to the language that they understand. So you are them, talk about what you can do in a way that connects with them. So that's a good way to start with. Why, and look after yourself and build resilience throughout. Because if you're not engaged, it can be a real challenge to try and engage people who are less interested in being engaged if you're not on form.
That's great, thank you, Becky. We've got another question from Shaya, and it asks, how do you evaluate how well your coaching style is being received by others?
Brilliant question. So in a couple of ways. So as a coach, it's easier. So when I'm employed to coach an individual and I'm not responsible for line managing them, I'm brought into an organisation to coach a leader, it's far easier to evaluate the impact. So we can invite the client, the person I'm coaching, to score themselves on, you know, where it is they want, you know, if they want to build their confidence or they want to be better at leading their teams. We can measure that. We can do pre and post coaching intervention measures. So it makes it a lot easier. And I will seek feedback on whether it's working, whether it's going well. So I have the privilege of being able to put all of that in place. But as a leader, I think the best way to do that is to ask people to say, this is my approach. Does it work? And other times, you know, using 360 feedback is a really powerful tool. Does this work? Is there anything else I could do? What, you know, how do my messages land with you? And it's about being brave and courageous in seeking out that feedback and building a culture where people give you helpful developmental feedback, not just platitudes where they just say, oh yeah, everything's fine, you're brilliant, or no, I hate it here, but actually being specific and giving you some things that you can work on. So it's rapport building, again, goes back to relationship building. Asking and being prepared to deal with in an emotionally intelligent, responsive way to what feedback you're given, and then acting on it and delivering on what they've asked you to deliver on. So I would say you can't ask for measures, but what you can do is the way that you will see improvement will be through things like the delivery of the service, the experience that your patients have or the customers have, the what it feels, the feedback from others, or, you know, when people say things like, gosh, it feels great when you walk into this station or into this ward or into this office, because people are friendly and make eye contact. Those kind of measures, don't underestimate how powerful they are, because they build reputations and they build great services as well. I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant, thank you, Becky. And I think someone's just commented, Rob Isherwood's commented and said and recommended Edgar Sheen. Helping is an amazing good resource, well worth a read. Apologies if I've not pronounced that right. Is that something you've heard of, Becky?
There's a few out there, but that sounds like something that would be really useful. I don't think there's any. I haven't got any other specific ones, because the ones that I have that we use are really, we use a lot of academic text, so anything that just helps you to just think about your style, you know, taking a bit of time to think about how your message lands, not necessarily coaching books, but Nancy Klein's Time to Think is very similar to that as well, in that you know, it's about creating thinking organisations, building the space and time in to actually decide what are we doing this for, why are we doing it as well. So absolutely recommend that as well. And I'm happy to share others.
That's great, Becky. That concludes all the questions. Unfortunately, we haven't had anybody putting the hand up to open up a live question this time around, unfortunately. But hopefully in the future we'll have somebody that's willing to do that. So I'm just going to pass over to Andrew, but just before I do so, Becky, thank you so much for that presentation. It's been extremely interesting, and as you know from having done your course on coaching, I'm really passionate about this subject as well. So and I can tell just how passionate you are from your teaching and this webinar. So thank you so much. I'll just pass over to Andrew, and he's just going to run through a few more slides to close off the webinar. So thank you again.
Thank you very much indeed, Dominic. Becky, am I okay? I guess I'm okay in pointing people towards your Twitter page. Is that all right?
Absolutely. We have two. So there's me, and there is our company page, which is @boo_HQ. So our corporate page, and then the less corporate page, which is mine.
And I have popped your profile up on screen now. So Becky's website is boo-consulting.com. I have got a question, Becky. If I wanted to take part in a coaching course, I wanted to find some more information, I guess your organisation provides that type of thing as an individual if I wanted to come to you and look at sort of improving my coaching skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So we deliver qualifications around coaching, mentoring. We deliver skills development programs. We offer leadership coaching on a one-to-one, group coaching, and everything that you need can be found if you just make click on the Contact Boo link on our website, and come and have a cup of tea with us. We're in Bolton. We've got a lovely venue, and the team are always open for a visitor and sharing ideas and enthusiasm with other fellow coaching fans.
You have sold it to me. I will be there, and I shall bring biscuits as well. Becky, thank you very much indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those people who have taken part in the entire webinar tonight, a certificate of attendance and a copy of the recording of Becky's presentation will drop directly into your CPD profile, or of course you will get an email through within the next 48 hours. All that we then ask you to do, the people who belong to CPD.me, is just document your learning experience and how what you've learned from Becky's presentation tonight might influence or change your practice. Just a couple more things to point out. For those people that I did mention the new app, we are hoping to launch the app at the Emergency Services Show. You can see a quick screenshot there of the new CPD.me app. Lots of brilliant new features, and you'll also notice that our app icon is about to change as well. Not too much, but it will change. So if you download the old app today, at the end of the month when the new one launches, it will update automatically. So please jump across to cpdme.com, download the app, and it will magically update itself when we launch the new features. For those people among us who are going to the Emergency Services Show, fantastic 63 certified learning and development certified webinars and seminars. All that you need to do if you haven't registered is go to emergencyuk.com or simply Google search ESS 2017. Something really fantastic is happening this year, and it's the first time we've done this for the Emergency Services Show, but you will be issued a seminar passport. And when you attend those individual seminars, you will get a stamp on that passport seminar, and then you simply just come along to the CPD.me stand at M41, and we will issue you your certificate for attending that seminar. Just by magic, you'll not only get the certificates emailed to you from the Emergency Services Show, but just by magic, it will automatically also drop directly into your CPD.me profile or the new mobile app if you've downloaded it, so that then the app will allow you to document what you've learned from that seminar and how that might influence or change your practice, just like magic. We haven't got any more webinars listed currently because, as you've probably seen on the bottom of there, the new webinars are going to be integrated into the new app, and so we can't advertise them just yet until the new app's launched. And so watch this space, but if you have got the app, as you can see, you'll be able to register for all the free webinars at the very bottom. Anybody who has asked any questions that Becci hasn't answered tonight, or if you have any questions, you can email to us and we'll get them to Becci in the next 24 hours. But all that leaves me to say is thank you very much indeed for everybody spending the time with us this evening. Sarah Harris, are you there? Is she there, Sarah?
Yes, I am, Andrew.
Sarah, thank you very much for managing our social media tonight. I have just had a quick peek and it looks like you have been very busy, so thank you, Sarah.
Very welcome.
Dominic, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Dominic, thank you very much indeed for facilitating the webinar tonight. And of course, a big thank you to Becci for helping us bring coaching with the leading style to the audience. All that leaves me to say is have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. Good night.
I am, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And Dominic, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sure. It's almost a bit like Telly Bingo, isn't it? And most importantly, I would like to have a big thank you to Dan Smith. So are you still there, Dan?
I am. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us tonight, Dan. And again, thank you very much for everybody else who's taken part in this webinar on this Wednesday evening. And all that's left to say is have a good night and take care of yourself. Thank you and good night.